show that is 3 dimensions away from Wicked being called The Wicked Witch. I'm your host, 3D Jake, and today we're looking at Wicked, released in 2024. Wicked is directed by John M. Chu and is written by Winnie Holtzman and Dana Fox and is based on the play Wicked by Stephen Schwarzbook and Winnie Holtzman and the book Wicked by Gregory Maguire. The movie stars Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande, Jonathan Bailey, Michelle Yeoh, Peter Dinklage, and Jeff Goldblum. The movie is essentially the origins of the Wicked Witch and how she came to be evil. And I will say, I actually like the idea of that because I like an idea of a villain origin story, okay? And so I was really looking forward to this. And I know it's based on the Broadway play Wicked. And so I was like, you know what? I really, really like, like when they try to like deconstruct characters and stuff, like and I understand the Wicked Wizard of Oz is a public domain series, and I know in the book she's like really evil, and I've heard before that I watched the movie. Well, this is actually more or less the Wicked Witch is gaslit into being a villain. Like she's not really an evil person; she's just kind of turned manipulating her, like Darth Vader essentially. Where Darth Vader is not really he was just tricked into being a villain. I actually was like, all right, you know what, I'm on board. You know what, I am on board. So I went to go and watch the movie, and yeah, I hated this movie. Okay, I absolutely hated this movie. I thought it was shit. I don't. I mean, I wasn't saying. Well, all right, let me rephrase that. I don't think it is shit, but I do think it is not a very like. It's just I thought it was fucking boring. I'm sitting there watching this movie, and I'm like, why am I not liking this? I like The Wizard of Oz. I love Oz the Great and Powerful, and I was just like, all right, what am I like? What am I not liking about this movie? And I don't know. Maybe I'm just not the demographic for this movie. I mean, and I don't mind the musical. I like musicals. Okay, look, I love Rocky Horror Picture Show, the original Wizard of Oz, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, Sweeney Todd is one of my favorite musicals of all time. I even like Grease, and I like West Side Story. I just did not like this movie, and I'm just like watching this, going, why am I not liking this movie? And it's just like the music, there was no song that I would absolutely. And I was discussing this with a friend of mine, and she told me, she was like, "Look, there's not one song I would buy from Spotify," because she had the same reaction. She goes, "I didn't like the movie either," and I was like, right? I'm like, there's no songs, and then she's like, "Yeah," she's like, "There's no songs I'd get off Spotify," and I'm just like watching this, going, right, like why am I not loving this movie? I should be like just jumping up and down going, I want to watch Wicked Part 2, because I know there's a two-part movie, and the first 2 minutes and seconds of the movie, I'm like, all right, when you see the Wicked Witch is hot and water covered over there, I'm like, awesome. Then you see Dorothy and then walking to Oz, and I'm like, oh yeah, because the trailers look really cool, because I love the visuals. And I will say one thing is positive about the movie is I really like the visuals of the movie. Like I like how Oz looks. I like the flying monkey. There's even a cool shot with in the third act is really where I thought I kind of started like, okay, it's not as bad. Where like whenever the monkeys get their wings and stuff, and then you start seeing the monkeys fly and shots and everything, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna go for attacks, and I'm like, all right, it's about to get good, and then it just didn't pay off. I'm like about to the big battle sequence and stuff, and like, nah, none of that. It's just more or less the monkeys do attack, but it's not like, it's more or less just they're focusing on like escaping from the Oz, and they're just like singing. And I feel like the singing is where the movie kind of like it hurts the film, because I understand it when you're doing a Broadway play, like the play is beloved. I'm sure, well, I've not seen the Broadway play, but I'm sure when you did the play, obviously you have a smaller sets and everything, and so you have to more or less rely on the music to sell the scene. Versus a movie where you have a giant set to where you can actually shoot this movie, and you can go anywhere you want with the camera. And I think that's the issue, is that there's things where you don't really need to sing in the scene, because you can just do the scene. And I really would like to have seen the book adaptation of this movie rather than the musical version, because I just feel like if it wasn't for the music, I think it would probably be a lot better. Because I feel like the music is just like, okay, I don't need her singing for 10 minutes. Just go on with the sing. Like, there's one scene, okay, where she's just singing for 10 minutes, and I'm like, can you stop fucking singing and just go to the next scene? I want to see what's going to happen. Like, there's some ideas in the movie where I'm actually invested. Like, okay, where like like where the Oz, they want animals teaching humans. Okay, they want animals to like animals are just supposed to be, and it's kind of like a segregation thing. And I'm like, that was a very interesting aspect, because it's like a civil rights thing, almost like parallel to the civil rights era, wherein like instead of it being African American people or people of color, it's supposed to be they're using animals as this metaphor. And I thought that was an interesting take on this, saying that, hey, do you want your people to be like, do you want animals teaching your kids? And I thought that was interesting, because I'm like, okay, the metaphors and parallels I thought was a very interesting take on this. And I'm like, all right, I'm interested. But then they don't really they go away from that, like they touch on it for like 20, and that's kind of like part of the point in the movie and then later on, but it really is just like it feels mostly like the movie is just focused on, oh, we're friends, everybody hates me, oh, everybody's being mean to me, bullying me, and oh, now there's a hot guy, and oh, he's like, he's the cool bad boy and looks like Elvis, and everything, and all of a sudden he's like, hey, pretty mama, and everything. It's just like, do we really need this? If we should focus on this, less on this. It feels like I'm watching like a shittier version of Mean Girls or Carrie, and I'm like, I want to watch this part, and everything. I'm like, if they would have focused on like the animal aspect of the movie and then them going to Oz and that right there, I'm like, that's right, that's your story. That right there is your story. Instead, you got all this other bullshit that I'm like, you know what? I don't want this other bullshit. Give me this. And it's like, I understand. This movie's made to appease to people who really like, I guess, like the play. I'm really guessing that this is made for the people like the play, not so much as the book. And I'm guessing that, and I'm just sitting there watching this going, I like Cynthia Erivo as the Wicked Witch. I thought she was good in the movie. I do feel like everything else in the movie is miscast. I feel like Ariana Grande just is not, Glinda. I'm just like, I just can't see her. I just feel like she's doing cosplay. I feel like I'm watching like a SNL sketch with her as Glinda. I know people say, oh, she's good. I'm like, I just feel like she's, every time she's on screen, I just feel like she's like, I don't just buy her. Like, and I know Amanda Seyfried almost got the role, and I feel like she would have been a better choice for Glinda because she literally, I mean, I think she would come off as better. I guess because it's probably Ariana Grande. Like, I remember Maya Hawke recently saying that they cast based on Instagram followers. I 100% believe that for this casting. I feel like they looked at her and Amanda Seyfried like, well, Ariana Grande has a lot of music. She can sing and she has a lot of Instagram followers, so let's just hire her. And I feel like that's really why they hired her. And because I just don't understand because it's for acting, and I understand she got her start in Nickelodeon, but like Nickelodeon and an Oscar nominated film are two different things completely. And I'm just saying, like, that's going like from the playground to like, NASCAR. Okay, I'm just saying, like, it's really two different things. I will say though, I do think that like Ethan Slater, who's Ariana Grande's boyfriend, and the main plays Bach, who is a character that was in the original Wizard of Oz book, but was never in the original movie, or he's never really been in the movie. They always keep him omitted. And I kind of felt bad that they always did that, but I do like that he's in this, and I feel like this is kind of like the poor man's version of Harry Potter, where it's like, oh, we're going to a school, the Oz school, and I'm just thinking, oh, what is this, fucking Hogwarts or something? Like, I'm just like, and I just like, and I do like, like the visuals, and I like, and I will say the score is great. The score is wonderful. I just feel, and the directing is good. The acting is just not bad. I just feel like there's just a lot of miscasted roles. Like the sister in the movie, I don't understand. Like, because the sister in the movie is in a wheelchair, okay, and I'm just like, isn't she supposed to be like the Wicked Witch of the West? Like, isn't she supposed to be evil too? So I was like waiting, like, okay, maybe she at the end she'll like, she'll like, like maybe it's part of her, like she'll get like a potion, it'll heal her, like, and like, hey, look, we're gonna heal you, but in order that you're gonna lose your humanity or something, like, or something. And then I'm like, nothing happens with her, just like she's just like, and I'm just like, nothing happens, and I'm just like wondering, like, you know, what is the point? And it turns out in real life, I looked this up. It turns out the actress is really in a wheelchair, and I'm like, well, that's fine. That. And I'm like, okay, well, then what are they gonna do with her? Is she gonna like be like, because she gets crushed by a house in the lore, the Wizard of Oz lore. So I'm like, are they gonna bring her in? Is she gonna become evil? Because if she doesn't become evil, then you're breaking the lore. Like, literally, they established the lore, and at the beginning of the first 10 minutes of this movie, like the Wicked Witch gets blazed in water, and the whole point of her motivation in the original Wizard of Oz story is because her sister gets a house dropped on her, and then she steals the ruby slippers. Even though they're not ruby slippers, they would be silver slippers because MGM was the rights to the Wizard of Oz, and the ruby slippers were created with that sole purpose. But I'm just sitting there wondering, like, how are they going to recanonize this? And I understand it's a different lore, so it might change the lore a little bit, but I'm curious to know. I do think, though, I do like like, I think, I do like the whole, like, the Wicked Witch and like the handsome prince, that he's not like, he's kind of a douchey, but not like too douchey, if you know what I mean. Like, he actually like does care about animals and stuff. And there's a scene where all the people pass out with the poppies. I thought that was a great scene. And I also thought it's like, the wizard, at the end, I thought it was really great, especially when, I really thought when she decides to just be an outcast at the end and everything. And I thought that was really great. I mean, those are things I really liked in this movie. Everything else just felt like it really disappoints me. And I hope I will watch Wicked for good. Hopefully, it's going to be a great movie. Maybe I'll have a positive review and say, "Oh my God, this is great." But from my disappointing experience, I just did not like this movie, and which is disappointing me. If I had to give this movie a grade just from my experience alone, I'm gonna give it a D. Thank you so much.
Sharpton for president, y'all. I'm outie.
Jesse Jackson for VP.